And you would never say like, oh, okay, this whole car is busted. Instead, it's like, all right, well, the electricity is getting from here to here, but it's not getting from here to there. This is the piece that's bad.
Hey there, and welcome to a brand new episode of Delivering Marketing Joy. I am your host, Kirby Hassman, and joining me today is a brand new rock star. I'm super excited to dive in. There's some really interesting topics we're going to talk about today. He's the CEO of Draft Media Partners, Skip Wilson. Thanks so much for coming here today.
Yeah, thank you for having me.
Absolutely. So I want to dive in because I was looking at bios and doing some research, and there's some interesting stuff I want to ask you about today. The first one is like, we're all trying to grow our business. And one of the ways is to market and advertise. But I've heard you say we need to stop guessing when it comes to advertising. I feel this in my soul. So how can we make advertising that's more predictable?
Yeah. So, I mean, the big thing is know the numbers and the averages in your industry by platform prior to launching a campaign. I mean, the idea that, I think it's always attributed to like Henry Ford, right? Of like, I don't know, I know half my advertising is working. I just don't know which half.
Right.
That's should not be the case in today's world because everything's so trackable. You should know, okay, in Facebook, what's the customer acquisition cost for a, heating and air conditioning company or whatever. Those are all things that are just a Google search away in today's world. And so at least give it that much before figuring out, and then, because then that does a couple of different things. It allows you to sort of get realistic expectations on what a campaign should be, because it lets you figure out like what's average or typical. And so it's like, okay, if you got $100 cost per lead, whether that's good or bad really depends on what industry you're in, what market you're in, and those things. But there is an answer, and it's not hard to find. And so that's the big thing. Make sure that you just take a few minutes to sit down with a piece of paper, try to figure out what should the results be before you ever buy anything. And shameless plug. I mean, that's what that's what our whole platform is like predicting advertising results. But even without that, even without our stuff, I mean, just Google it. Google a Google and a Google Sheet. Those two tools together, and you can figure it out.
Yeah. So at least that sets a target so that when you run an ad, you can see if it's effective or not. Right? Is that what you're kind of saying?
Exactly. Yeah. That way, all right, it's my cost per, if it's a radio campaign and it reaches 40,000 people, about 1% of the QM might actually come to your website. You should know that your website converts at whatever percentage, let's say 5%.
Yeah.
If you know that ahead of time, should I buy this radio campaign or not?
Right.
Yeah. Because then it becomes a very simple, predictable thing.
Yeah, love that. All right. So now, but once you get something going, right? We've all started a campaign. We thought it was great. Otherwise, we wouldn't have done it. But we've all had campaigns that are not performing, right? So when that happens, is that one of those where you're like, okay, we're just going to bail? Or how do you turn around an underperforming campaign?
One of the core phrases on repeat with us, it's on a sign out there, actually. I need to have one in here, but is that there's no campaign failure, only feedback, or it actually just says no failure, only feedback. Because that is, with very rare exception, unless you are an event-based company or you're a $99 mattress sale this weekend only type company, most campaigns are not pass-fail. Most campaigns are more ongoing, whether it's lead gen or e-commerce. And once you can have 4 to 6 to 12 weeks behind a campaign, the idea of the whole thing failing is just lazy. You should be, if you're tracking it along the way, it's like, all right, are the people not getting, is the click-through rate bad? If so, then I know that I'm either got a bad audience or a bad ad. Is my landing page converting at what's normal for my industry? If not, then, you've got a landing page issue. Maybe you need more reviews on there, more, so I think of advertising campaigns very much like an engine, or like a machine. And you would never say like, oh, okay, this whole car is busted. Instead, it's like, all right, well, the electricity is getting from here to here, but it's not getting from here to there. This is the piece that's bad. And
right.
that's how I think of ad campaign. So that way you can figure out, all right, this is the part that's broken. Let's fix that.
I like that. That's a really good metaphor. All right. So one of the things I've seen you talk about is a draft mentality. Now I know a lot of people might have just done their fantasy draft, but I don't think that's what you mean.
Right.
So talk about the importance of a draft mentality. Can you talk about that?
It can apply to things like a fantasy draft. The idea is just that, there's never like a finished product. Companies should always be changing. Campaigns should always be changing. Really everything you do in life, like whether it's fitness goals or whatever you are today, you want it to be better a year from now, 10 years
Great
from now.
point.
And so you should always be looking for ways to improve. And that's why when you can look at a campaign that's not performing, it's not a pass fail. This campaign did or didn't work. Instead, it's more like, all right, well, what parts worked? This is working. What parts not? Fix that part. And like I said, you can literally take that into any area of life, even sports, whatever, you name it. Find the stuff that's working, do more of that. Find the stuff that's not, fix it.
Nothing's necessarily final.
Exactly.
You've hit publish, but then you can learn from that and move on. I like that.
Yeah.
So
once your ads, sorry, didn't mean to cut you off, but yeah, once your ads start running is actually the start of a campaign. I mean, that's really when you start getting the feedback. That's when that shouldn't be the final thing, right? Like when you, whether it's an ad agency or whatever, or you're doing it yourself, when you hit go or publish on the campaign, it's actually the beginning of the process. Like that's now you're starting to get feedback. Now you start making things. That's not the end. You don't hit publish and then cross your fingers. You hit publish and then see what happens and tweak.
Yeah, I think that's actually kind of interesting. I think from an entrepreneurial mindset too, because that's like we have hypotheses before we start a business, right? And then we put it out into the marketplace, and the marketplace tells us if they're interested. We think they're going to be, but then there's a little bit of a parallel with ads. It sounds like.
Absolutely, yeah. I mean, even us, like as a company, we started out originally as a MarTech company. The idea was, well, let's build this software that agencies can use for planning and execution and all that, and then sell that as a software as a service. But with what we found out was that the last thing agencies need is like another software as a service, right? And we were very much a nice to have, but not a need to have. And so we very quickly pivoted from, we had so many requests for, hey, thanks for building this campaign. Can you guys just do it? That we realized, oh, that's the bigger opportunity. So, we very much have had major pivots even within our own business. Sometimes the market tells you a better idea.
Yeah, exactly. Okay. Final question for you, man. This has been really interesting. I feel like one of the challenges is there's so many options when it comes to advertising dollars now. And we want to be in a lot of places. So how can you create an omni-channel campaign and still make it effective?
If you begin with, advertising breaks down really into three different things: a specific audience, a specific message, and a specific result. You're just trying to figure out, who am I talking to? What am I trying to say to those people to get them to do something specific? And as long as you figure that piece out first, who's my specific audience? What should I say to get them to do the one thing I'm trying to get them to do? Then the actual tactics sort of fall in line. Like if your target is let's say that you're your assisted living place and you're trying to get, 55 to 75-year-olds looking for either themselves or parents, then that skews itself towards something like Facebook, which might be a little bit of an older demographic, or even print and traditional media, which is an older demographic. So it's like once you figure those things out first, the rest of it's kind of easy. Or if it's, if you're trying to generate phone calls, well, Google's great for phone calls. Once you figure out what the goal is, who you're talking to, and what you're saying, the rest of it, I feel like, doesn't feel like a endless world of possibilities. It's more like, okay, well, here's the 2 or 3 places that make sense.
This was fun, Skip. Where can people find out more information about you?
Yeah, so draftmediapartners.com, draftadvertising.com, same place, same website. info@draftmediapartners.com. Feel free to reach out.
That's awesome. Skip Wilson, thanks so much. This has been fun. We'll have to do it again sometime, okay?
Sounds good. Thank you.
All right. Well, that's going to wrap up this edition of Delivering Marketing Joy. We'll see you next time.